Hey everyone, it's me, Paul, and I just finally got out of the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. I was originally supposed to see this movie a few weeks back, but due to a massive winter storm where I am, it ended up not working out. But I was here and I was able to come with a few of my friends again. I have Nick October again, Big Ounce, and Josh. I asked everyone to come with me, and I really think the experience is better for it. I'm going to give a few quick thoughts and then hear everyone, and then we'll go into spoilers. I'll say when we get there. My initial thoughts are I personally really like this movie. I think it really works well. It does a good job doing enough of the games where I'm not like annoyed what they changed. The production design is fantastic. It's probably my favorite thing about this movie. I am a diehard for practical effects, especially when they're used in horror, and I cannot get over how good everyone looks in this movie. The animatronic suits and costuming is so good. You can tell all the love that was put into it. The acting is all really good. I think all these actors do a really good job with the material and really know how to deliver a scene well. The script isn't too bogged down, but like a lot of people have said, the subplot in this movie, it doesn't need to be here. I really think you could have done this movie without the subplot, but at the very least, at least in the first third, in my opinion, it does keep the story moving along. It doesn't drag on too much, but part of that is just because it doesn't drag on too much. And it easily could have gone on a lot longer, or maybe I'm just more tolerant of pointless subplots involving families because I've gone through it so much already in movies. Because, like, I still like the first Sonic the Hedgehog, even though most of it has nothing to do with Sonic. But then the second one actually gives us more Sonic. So maybe I'm just more tolerant of them. We're going to just start from the left. What were your initial thoughts on it, Nico?
I didn't love it. It's weird because I started off really liking it. I think it started strong and it kind of built and it kind of got weird as we went along, and just slowly it just started getting worse and worse. There's like a lot of plot holes and just not tiny things that were bothering me the entire movie. And I didn't think it was that scary, which I know it's PG-13 and I know a lot of kids and children love this movie, game, whatever. But at the same time, it's like, when I remember playing it and still play it to this day, I still, like, there's that suspense. It's like, this is actually kind of scary. And watching this was kind of like, okay.
Atmosphere.
The atmosphere was off in this, too.
That's a big thing about people say the first one is the one that had the best atmosphere, especially due to the sound design. Would you say that was a big part of it?
There was nothing. It was kind of dry to me. And I would have done it a lot differently if I were writing it. Basically, what it boils down to, I thought the writing was really, really bad, and it felt like a first draft, and then they just threw it and said, "Let's fucking go." I'm sorry, I don't mean to know if you.
No, it's really
okay.
It's okay
I have a
on here.
potty mouth.
I appreciate it. It's okay on here. Okay, just a second, and then we'll get to spoilers.
Okay, I just had one more thing. There were some things I did like about it. Like I said, start off was good. The restaurant looked amazing. Like, all the effects looked great. The kills were fantastic. But yeah, basically the coolest thing to me was like the lighting. The animatronics looked good, even though I think we saw too much of them. Like, they were too exposed in the light. I think it would have been scary if we hid them hidden. And what else? Basically, it just looked good. It was like well shot, and the effects and the production was really fantastic. But
What's your 10 out of 10?
That's more at the end.
Oh,
Let's go for that at the end because we got to go to spoilers.
All right.
How about you, Ants?
This was a religious experience. I laughed, I cried, I ascended. I found love for the first time. No, just kidding. Basically, I'd say by no means the greatest picture of all time, but not the worst either. It's really good. Effects were damn good. I'd say the story was pretty good, I guess, but like part of my brain that's like read up on the lore and stuff. I'm like, it's not how it fucking worked. It's different, and I'm like, but I understand why, and it pulls off what it needs to pull off. I'd say it's pretty good. I would have, if I directed it, it would have an R rating, like hard R, like it needs to be.
I agree.
Yeah, I want to talk about that more.
With like the vibes of like a Springtrap thing, that makes me think Saw. So
yeah, I'm definitely going to talk about that more in a second.
But yeah, I'd say that's it's pretty good. It's a good movie.
Josh, anything to add?
Probably one of the best movies I've seen this year, or one of my favorite movies I've seen this year. Really disappointed that Markiplier couldn't be in there. I wish
Yeah.
that Matt Pat played like a bit more of a role.
Yeah.
And was it Jim Henson?
Yes, Jim
Puppeteer
Henson
Shop?
Puppetry.
Yeah,
Yep.
puppetry. They did an amazing job bringing like animatronics to life. Yeah.
Yeah, so with Markiplier, he was just filming Iron Lung at the time. Like, he has personally said on stream, it was just the timing on that, was he was trying to film Iron Lung when the movie started up, and he just didn't have enough time. But he does want to be involved in the future. So if it's more likely because of how well this movie's doing, but if there's a sequel, I think he'll find a way to make time
They're
to be in
definitely
it.
going to have a sequel at this rate because like they set up a sequel so much in this.
Yeah, well, it takes more than just setting up a sequel to get a sequel. Otherwise, we would have a Super Mario Bros. 2 live action, and we'd have a Buckaroo Banzai 2 and a Master of the Universe 2. It's the one thing to set up a sequel.
It's good enough to get a sequel.
Yeah, it's good enough, and it has to do well enough. It has to perform well enough. Okay, let's talk about real fast. Let's talk about the R rating, and then we'll go into spoilers because I, of course, have opinions on that too. Blumhouse, Nico, you of course have a lot of experience with Blumhouse. Blumhouse really gets involved with PG-13 more than it does R, and part of that is its lower budgets. They want to make sure they make a profit on it.
Absolutely.
Even though because they use lower budgets, they're going to make a profit anyway. Even with it out being an R rating, do you think this was a good PG-13? Like, do you think that at least actually earns the PG-13? Because there's a lot of movies that do the bare minimum of a cuss word to get there these days.
You know, I'm pretty experienced in the horror genre, and of all the PG-13 movies, I would say it's definitely on the edgier side. However, I don't think it needs an R rating. I actually think if it was me making the movie, I would have gone harder. but that would have made it an R rating, but I don't think it needs to be.
Yeah.
But that being said, like, if you're weary about what your kids watch or whatever, you know, check it out.
This day
first.
and age, not anymore, but yeah. How about you, Alex?
I would say it kind of has the vibes of like, this might sound a little weird, but like a pre-PG-13 era, like a really hard PG.
Late 80s. Late
Yeah,
80s?
early 80s PG.
Oh, early 80s, like Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah, like that. Like
Yeah,
super.
definitely.
Like
Because Temple of Doom was what started that.
yeah,
So like
this-
Raiders of the Lost Ark
This
era?
is like
Or like
a
Jaws.
horror movie you can take your kids to,
Yeah.
basically. Yeah.
Well, and that's obviously the intention.
Although
Because like FNAF is not the main demographic. I don't think it was ever
Yeah.
the main demographic of this series, at least not at the beginning. But it is a heavy part of their demographic now.
That's what I
Okay,
said.
Josh, what do you think on the rating? Do you have anything to add?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Well, like
No, the rating. Do you have anything to add
MPAA.
about like the PG-13? Would you have made it an R? How do you feel about that?
Not an R, no. Although it could have been, yeah, it's good how it is, at least in my point of view.
Because for me, and I of course have plenty of opinions on the rating system, is whatever you're rated, I feel like as long as you actually earn the damn rating, which so few movies do now, then it's justified. If you're PG, then you better actually deserve to be PG and not just a G movie. Puss in Boots: The Last Wish earns its PG rating.
I'm
It's an obvious one.
I'm thinking about like how Inside Out got a PG for mild peril. That's bullshit.
Yeah, like that kind of thing. Yeah, exactly. But if you're a PG-13, it's way too easy to be one. But this movie for me is a Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness PG-13, where it's genuinely if it had a cuss word and one more bloody kill, it'd probably become borderline R. But a film doesn't need to be R to be good, especially not in the horror genre. It needs to be a good damn movie. But again, Blumhouse dances with PG-13 a lot. Pretty infamously, it danced with it with Mithrigan, and that's how we got the unrated version that has all the actual blood in it. But PG-13 is way more marketable, so that's why people go for it.
Multiverse of Madness got a neck snap. Why didn't this one get? I feel scammed with that part.
Well, it didn't get a neck snap, but again, and there's so much
It
you
was
can get.
still pretty brutal.
Yeah, there's so much you can get away with in a.
Head, like, caving in and, like, melting.
There's so much you can get away with in a PG-13 with good sound design and and suggestion, implied and just shadowed. It was one,
gory-ass death.
like when that woman. We're gonna start to get into spoilers overall. When that woman goes in the Freddy head and she gets snapped in half, it would have been one thing if they just showed the shadow, but I wasn't expecting them to actually show the corpse.
I remember
and like
John-
that, I think works. If the shadow is her getting killed,
Yeah.
and then it shows you the corpse, that earns a PG-13.
That was honestly
if you show her like struggling as it slowly closes on her and then it falls to the ground,
That's an
then you're going into torture porn territory, and that's either exciting or just
I
egregious.
remember Josh screamed out, "Was that the bite of '87?"
Yeah, a lot of people yelled
That
that.
was funny.
Yeah, okay, now let's start to get into spoilers. And I'm definitely going to start with everyone else first, because I'm definitely curious. Go right ahead, Nico. Whatever you wanted to add.
Okay, it might take a second because I kind of have a lot to say.
No problem.
Yeah, so it starts off kind of cliche, but it's still, classic good horror movie opening. It's like, oh no, I'm getting chased, cool, it's creepy, whatever. And then it kind of gets into the main story, which is okay. I kind of agree with what Paul said earlier. There's the weird subplot in it. Felt forced, and I don't know. I feel like it's like the lamest kidnapping I've ever seen. I don't know how else to say that. It's like
It felt like a damn John.
Yeah, it was
Studio
like-
note. It felt like studio notes. We need this film to be longer.
yeah.
Like we need something to make this film longer, or just make it have it more of a story.
It felt like they were trying to build it more towards a twist, and the twist kind of fell through. It was like, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
But so we go on through the movie. He gets the job as a security guard. I'm having a blast watching it. It's so good. The pizzeria looks just like the video game, with the exception of the doors, and everything else just looks so freaking good. And then I saw the animatronics, and they're practical, and I'm like, yes, they look good. And they were hidden in the dark for a while. I'm like, oh, good, this is gonna be creepy. They're gonna be scary. And then we kind of go on a little bit, and then out of nowhere, this person who comes a big character, it's the cop lady, whatever her name was,
Vanessa.
White woman from
No,
whatever
no,
that movie.
I want to.
Yeah.
I probably should have said this at the beginning. I'm familiar with the games. I have a vague understanding of the story. Like, I know what happened, but not specific details. These guys were getting excited about things. I had no clue what was the thing.
I feel like this movie isn't made though that you have to understand the games,
No, you
which
just-
I appreciate.
No, you don't.
I
but
do appreciate that, but yeah,
I
absolutely.
appreciate it too, because there was like me, and I was like talking to Paul when he first invited me. I'm like, am I gonna have to like listen to the 7-hour video
you could
by
enjoy this if you
Wendigoon to
understand the
understand what
rules.
happens?
Yeah.
But I understand the cliff notes, and I've played the first 4 games and have a good idea of what happens in the rest. So anyways, we're going along, and this lady, she just comes, and she's on her shift, and she's just hanging out there, not being a cop. And then she comes to her house like the next day to come hang out with him, and on her shift, and not be a cop.
She feels inserted into the story.
Yeah, well, she could have been in the story and get a part of it. She could have drove by and be like, hey, I'm just checking in, are you doing okay? Give him a warning, move on, and then they somehow run past.
Yeah, that's what the trailer suggested.
Yeah.
I know trailers and movies are very different, but that's all the trailer gave us, so I thought it was more like that. Like,
Yeah.
she was just introducing herself because she knows it was on.
And it was just like, why do you care? And later we find out why she cares, but at the same time, she's like, well, I tried to warn you. It's like, why didn't
Okay,
you
yeah.
tell him to leave
Yeah.
right away?
No. She explicitly said, I don't mean to interrupt you, she explicitly said, I tried to warn you in my own way. And that was one moment where I legitimately went to the screen,
Yeah, I saw him do that, and I was just like, yeah, I don't know. We both had like the what? Because it was just dumb. It was like, you're a terrible person. And we're supposed to like her, and she seems like one of the villains. Like, even Paul Whisper is like didn't you say she was like Amanda from Saw or something?
and then she reminded me of a less whiny Amanda.
Yeah.
And at that point, when she started revealing why she had a connection to the main killer, was
Right.
that piece of it reminded me. But
It felt like she was a bad guy, but she was.
what I can say is that she was less whiny than Amanda, but Amanda had a better introduction to the story.
Well, yeah.
I agree with that. Was better integrated into the overall story at that point. But no, it's just, you don't. Part of it is horror cliches, part of it is slasher cliches, but part of it I have no patience for. You don't get I tried to in my own way. That's like,
That sounds like a politician.
if I may bring up some more random references to this because it's part of what I do. That's like Texas Chainsaw 3D. Didn't you read the letter your aunt wrote for you? No. Well, if you read the letter, everything would have made sense. Oh.
Right.
And it's like that's like the writer's way of saying, see, that solves everything. And I'm like, no, you don't get to write like that. I know people are stupid. I know people make stupid mistakes, especially in something really messed up, especially with something really messed up that has to do with family. But you don't get to just write it off in one line like that.
Well, you gotta remember,
that really irritated me.
If people used common sense in like horror movies and stuff, they'd be just really lame ass short films.
I don't know,
Well,
man.
not-
I've seen some good movies where like, I don't know, I would be
Well, yeah,
scared.
not all of them. Yeah, like
I like the aspect where it's like he's like mentally ill and stuff in some ways. Like that's kind of like a cool
Oh,
edge
yeah.
because it's like it's not like just normal person go to a job. It's like
Yeah.
this person.
the
that's like-
PTSD is getting to
Yeah,
it.
it's
And again,
like-
and that was actually that part is something that took elements from the game,
Yeah,
rewrote
exactly.
part of them for this movie, and I think worked well.
Yeah.
It took elements without, like we didn't have to say at any point. He didn't have. William Afton, Matthew Lillard's character, we are in spoilers now, is that William Afton didn't have to say, "You are really my son, Michael Afton," instead of Michael Schmidt. Like, they didn't have to make Michael Schmidt an alias like in the games. I appreciate that. That wasn't necessary to write into the movie to just connect it even more to the games.
If they shoved that in, it'd be stupid.
Yeah, it'd be really pointless. It was a change that I think worked.
I got more too, if that's okay.
No problem. I'm going to talk to Josh, and then we're going to go into like the final climax. We'll talk about that.
Okay. So
Josh,
we're doing.
Yeah, we're going into major spoilers now. Josh, do you have anything to add about what we've talked so far about Vanessa and the writing up to the finale?
No, not really.
All right.
I'm glad they didn't like reference Pizzaplex or freaking security breach too much.
That's too early in the time.
People would hate that.
That would literally bloat the story. That's like going from Sonic, we introduced Sonic's world, to Sonic 2. Here's Knuckles, Tails, Amy, Shadow, and Rouge all in one movie. That would be overstuffing that just to get as much out as you can. Yeah. And there's a right way and a wrong way to do that. Like even the Mario movie, for how much it got in with all the different games, it didn't have everything, and it didn't. So, quick intermission there in the editing. We were thrown out of the
We
building.
were arrested. We were arrested for multiple crimes.
Please come get me. I need bail.
We were thrown out because we weren't liking the movie after seeing it instead of not liking the movie during it like everyone else. But okay, so we did cover everything. I did want to get to the spoiler finale. What a twist! It's Springtrap. Everyone knew Springtrap was in this movie. He was in the first trailer.
I found
Like,
it was bullshit that he was actually alive in that. I think honestly.
no, because.
Well, I understand it, but like in my brain, I'm like, bro, I wish he was a decomposing corpse.
Well, yeah, but then.
Now Matthew Lillard is method acting for the sequel. He's dead inside the suit. He's gonna be there reanimated. It's really epic method acting, I must say.
Well, I'm looking forward to that. Well, no, I like that I like that the suit was obviously really damn old, because like it is a little curious how fresh the FNAF 1 animatronics are, even though the have been there for multiple years. But I like that his was decomposed because again, it was setting up the events of FNAF 3 where he dies by the ghost children, and I thought they did that well. Matthew Lillard is of course being Matthew Lillard, and I love it when he does that. He goes full Stu Macher once he takes the head off and just starts rambling. He just gets so feral and so raw in his anger, and I love watching him like that. The choreography for the finale is fine. The lighting is fine. I like how they defeat him. It was a decent way, and again, it's very different from the games, but again, it has that element that happened in the original, just with a few added pieces. Again, the reason I wanted to bring up the PG-13 so much is that they actually give us the spring lock scene. Like, the cupcake bites off part of the suit so that we can see the spring locks, and they actually show us the spring locks going into his skin. And I gotta give them props for that. That took balls to show, and I appreciate that part. It ended fine. It set up a sequel pretty naturally. He's doing the FNAF 3 thing of writhing and shaking in the freezer, and the golden Freddy child looks at him and closes the door. It was pretty standard stuff to set up a FNAF sequel, but I thought it was fine. The finale is far from the weakest part, of the part that annoyed me most, but yeah, the things that do set it up are littered with problems. I'm most curious about what you have to say, so you're going first again, Nick?
Okay, so we're kind of towards the end of the movie. My points kind of still stand. I felt Matthew Lillard, I will give credit, he did a great job. He always does. He was scary in it and everything. But there's just a lot of things that are just like, why? Because, like, why was he wearing the suit if he's trying to kill him? That's kind of dumb to me. It's like, that thing's heavy, and I understand it's because it's scary and he's supposed to in Springtrap and everything, but he wasn't a ghost or anything. He was just a dude. He was wearing this, probably 500-pound suit trying to chase people. It's like, okay, I'll run. And I didn't, I got distracted.
It's okay. Actually, so real fast, I'm not going to be like, actually to you, because that's really unfair and that's really rude.
Do that on actually, it's fine.
No, I'm not going to do it to that point, but what I think is, again, because they did stuff, is that he was in the suit not because of them, but because the animatronics would just see him as another person.
Okay.
He killed those kids in the yellow suit. The ghost kids in the animatronic are going to recognize the yellow bunny.
Okay,
They're not going to
sense.
recognize old Matthew Lillard. They're going to treat him the same way they treated the people who were trying to break in.
Okay.
By the way, like, like one of the only reasons I'm even leaning into the subplot at all is that it gave us more bodies for the animatronics to kill in an actual way instead of just idiots trying to break in. Like, I didn't want to bring up Willy's Wonderland for the most part, but I will bring it up here. The kills in this movie, the body count goes up not because a bunch of dumbass teens go in to try and destroy the place. It's because a group of people who are tied to one of the characters in the subplot come in to get Josh Hutcherson's character fired by destroying the place. That was a more natural way to get the animatronics to kill more people. So that's again one of the main reasons I'm lenient. But yeah, that's the main reason he was wearing the suit.
Okay, well then scratch that. That makes more sense.
Okay.
Especially knowing the games. But anyways, so going forward with this, it's like, and the way they ended it, I felt was very lazy. I don't know how else I would have ended it in a better way. It just.
This might sound weird, but like, for whatever reason, it's like the ending reminded me of like it's not even officially released. There's lost media, but like the lost ending to The Shining, where it's like an epilogue showing like them in recovery or whatever. But like this was more like a tamer version of that, I think.
Well, I meant more like when they.
Imagine if Kubrick directed this. That would be freaking crazy.
I don't think Kubrick would touch this with a 1,000-yard stick.
Oh, definitely not. But honestly,
It's far too pretentious.
no,
for that.
honestly, but I was talking about this with you the other day. Is that because we were talking about
Christopher Nolan.
No, we were talking about Nolan the other day, and it's more because what I love about his version of Batman is just that is so his own. I would love to see him, if you were interested, touch more popular IPs just to give his own unique vision on it. Imagine Nolan trying to tackle a movie like this if he actually wanted to, not if he was forced to.
When we get
It's
That'd
like
be
7 hours
when
long.
we get Christopher Nolan's Battletoads.
It might be more like, well, it wouldn't be 7 hours long, but it might be more like 7. Like it would go more into like the mind of a psychotic. I think it'd focus more on Lillard's character and more like the steps that took him to get him there.
Yeah.
Like if he did like a prequel to this movie of just about Lillard becoming William Afton becoming the killer.
If Nolan made it, it'd be game accurate.
But yeah.
Maybe again, because as realistic and unrealistic as Nolan gets in his movies, I still don't think he'd be big on adapting a game with ghost children possessing animatronics. That doesn't really sound like his style. Maybe it could be. I haven't seen all of his movies, but maybe it could be.
Christopher Nolan's Donkey Kong.
No, I do know what you're saying about the ending, though. I get that. It's a
Yeah.
very just, we got to wrap this up and
It's-
show who's alive and who isn't.
Nope, that's exactly how it felt. And then, like, I kind of briefly said this, but I didn't really fully say it. Really upset me that, like, it just became less and less scary as it went on. Like, it was good, and then, all the kids get killed when they break in, and that was really cool. I like the cupcake chewing on the face was cool to me, and the splitting half obviously was fantastic. But and then after that, you just started seeing them more in the light, and they became less scary. They started playing with the kid more, and I was like, okay, like aren't I supposed to be scared of these things? And I'm not. And then the movie ends, and I'm like, okay, I was not. Like it just got tame and lame and boring. And
You can't. I agree with you there. I don't mean to keep interrupting you, but I know what you. Part of what you're saying by that, because I was open to them being friendly to them at first. I liked where that was going because that was completely unexpected. And that sure as shit never happens in the games, but I liked that, and it was something exclusive to this version that made sense because of Abby. But the thing with that is you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't portray them for the first third of the movie as scary, mysterious, and the dark monsters with possessed ghosts in them. Then have them be friendly and kind to the kid. Then we're supposed to fear them because the girl was in trouble. You can't flip-flop between them across 3 acts. That doesn't make it work because it reduces the fear factor that they originally had.
well, that's what I mean. It's like flip-flopping the whole thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's like even when a character in horror, especially a slasher killer, becomes less scary for one reason or another, you still have to have a meaningful amount of threatening behind them. Freddy Krueger is always a threat, no matter how ridiculous or jokester or silly he gets. Chucky is always a threat, no matter how silly he gets, either who he gets involved with, because they will still kill and attack you for their own personal entertainment.
Honestly,
They're still a threat. And in this movie, you can't flip-flop between those back and forth like that. That doesn't work as well.
honestly, they could have made it better if during like the wholesome parts or whatever, they also had more of a lingering fear, like, is this legit or not?
Is this legit or not? And more situations of them in peril than just the guitar going off. Now,
I don't know. I think they should have just scrapped it all together and kept them scary. That's just me though. But I have my own vision of what the movie should be.
No, that's completely fair. That isn't just me though. That's a completely fair point. And
Yeah.
I'm of course really open to other people's opinions, especially on a movie like this. And I'm definitely curious. But
Yeah.
I really like that perspective on it. And I think I think you're right because there's only right and wrong answers about movies. I really like what you have in mind, and I agree with where you're coming from.
Yeah. So basically, I just think if they, I know the story is loaded. I know it's a lot to unpack. However, they made this movie knowing it was gonna be a hit. They announced it, and they knew it.
Yeah.
Like everyone was freaking out as soon as they talked about
This is
it.
a million
yes.
dollar.
They should. That's what I'm saying. It's like they knew every kid growing up our age
Yeah.
and younger, and maybe a little bit older, love these
Half the
games.
theater was like
No,
6 years
oh,
old.
definitely older because of all the YouTubers who made this game such a hit in the first place are so much older than us,
Well,
whether they're in this
exactly.
movie or not.
So-
They were who made it big, and people like us were drawn into it because of that. Yeah.
Yeah, so they knew it was gonna be big. My thing is, why didn't they stick to the game? Because everyone, like me, for example, I understand the cliff notes of what happens in the actual video game lore. And from what I know, it's actually really, it's scary and everything, but it's also like really depressing and really
Oh,
rough.
absolutely.
And,
No.
and I love it. It's so dark and we need more dark horror, and this wasn't that. It didn't have the tone I feel like the games have. And
They didn't have as much of the emotion on like.
3 and 4.
Well,
Especially 3 and 4.
and the story of the game, from what I've heard, is really good. It's a story of tragedy. It's
It's
like
bloated, but yeah, there's so much. Like honestly,
it's bloated, but
okay, honestly, in my opinion, this movie doesn't need a sequel first. I think what would work best for this movie, and people are of course going to disagree with me, and there are people who think actually that makes sense. I think this movie's next film, like the next Five Nights at Freddy's movie, needs to be a prequel focused on Afton's life. Because Afton's life is mostly focused on in 3 and especially 4, because that's where the crying child comes from. The bite of 83, not 87, the one where the little kid gets his frontal lobe bit off. The trauma he goes through in FNAF 4 in his bedroom, which might be a which might be a hospital. I think you should take those elements, give them your unique spins that you want to try and do for these movies that ties into the first one, but make it a tragic prequel, not a dark prequel, a tragic prequel. And I know that the issue is then how do you get the FNAF animatronics involved as much? How do you get as many of the kills besides that one moment with the kid? I still think that would actually be a good companion piece to this movie that you're deliberately supposed to see out of order.
I
The
know,
sequel, then the prequel.
that's kind of what I mean. But with that just seems like such a tone vibe. This movie felt like childish, and you're talking about something super real. And I think they could have.
Yeah.
I think if they did it right, they could have just made a really simple, scary story with a lot of questions unanswered that only the fans know.
That was the first game. Yeah.
Well, that's what I mean. Exactly like the first games. I had this whole vision of just a guy.
It's the first game. The entire story of the first game was told through nothing but a few newspaper clippings.
Right, and
It
that's
took time to build it up.
well, that's what I mean. So if we just told the first story, presented questions, not just like plot holes, like actual questions, like, oh, I wonder if they'll answer this, and then like give leeway to, hey, there's going to be a sequel, and then evolve it from there. And then maybe we don't need a full prequel because that's hard to pull off a good prequel. However, you could do like really good flashbacks to the past and
Yeah.
make it make more sense, and then have that kind of dark, melancholic, tragic horror
Yeah.
that as I found what made Five Nights at Freddy's so great.
Well, gentlemen, I think tomorrow we should all go to Blumhouse, present our ideas, and then get thrown out of the building.
Yep.
Because we'll present our ideas for the sequel.
Like,
Okay,
like Sonic 2.
I'm going to complain real fast about something, Alex, and I'll get back to you because I was talking about horror films. I actually want to talk about a great example for this movie, and part of it is Matthew Lillard, but I deliberately wore my Ghostface shirts. Even when Ghostface is asking you what your favorite scary movie is over the phone in these ridiculous, over-the-top ways to confuse teenagers, even when he's tripping over furniture or falling downstairs or getting hit by bicycles, except for in Scream 3, he is still going to kill you, and he knows who you are.
Not Scream
He
5.
is
He let
still a
everyone go.
Thank you for reminding me, Nico. Aside from in Scream 3, where he is a complete moron, and in Scream 5, where they are all morons, Ghostface is still a threat. He is still going to attack you. He is still going to kill you. You are still supposed to be afraid of him, and at least the characters are still afraid of him. Scream 6 got this the most right, but the original gets this right. 2 mostly got this right. 4 mostly got this right. He still needs to be intimidating, even when you make him a little goofy and a little awkward. And in this movie, they try to have 2 different versions of these characters in the same film to create contrast and concern for a character that we just saw building a fort out of blankets and tables with the main stars of your movie who are going to kill her. And that's too much tonal contrast. Just that was the best example I ended up thinking of.
No, that's a good example.
Thank you. Back to you, Sam.
I'm gonna sound insane and schizophrenic, but I know I said it as a joke earlier, but genuinely, like what I'd like to see possibly Christopher Nolan's Afton.
I would
Yeah.
watch it.
3-hour epic.
Yeah,
3
like
hours
I'm not
epic.
saying a prequel in the same vein of Joker. I'm saying a prequel in the vein of something like Kenobi.
Dude.
If that's an example that works, like Kenobi. And there's not a lot of great prequels to slasher characters. I mean, we have plenty in the Texas Chainsaw universe. But the bottom line is, whether you like them or not, my bottom line is just a movie that focuses more on the backstory and tragedy of this story. I'm not saying you can't have some lighthearted moments or some emotional moments that aren't all violent. And I'm not saying you can't tell the story of Afton's beginnings without any gore or any violence that isn't just the crying kid getting his head bit off. But I really feel like you could adapt this movie into a prequel first and then a sequel that gives us more animatronics or Golden Freddy or whatever you have planned next.
That's how the games win. Like it's like even though it's labeled 1, 2, 3, 4, it's more like 4, 2.
No, 4-3.
4,
No.
3, 2.
Yes,
1.
4-3-2-1, because he's dying, because he spends 30 years slumped on the ground in that suit. The FNAF 2 one goes under. People agree at this point FNAF 2 was 87 because the security guard got bitten by one of them then. That closed that restaurant down. Then it's Five Nights at Freddy's 1. Then it's the game of Five Nights at Freddy's 3 because String Trap is back to life. But the storyline, yes, 4 happened first. Sister Location happened first, then 4, but this is more stuff for me to go over in a future video because this is going long enough and I want to make sure everyone talks right now. Josh, did you have anything to add about what we said about the finale, Spring Trap?
What I really would have loved to have seen is in the ending, like as they're like leaving the pizzeria, like it's crumbling around them, like Michael would say, "Wow, that was really some wild nights. These past 5 nights of sex."
That would have been great.
That would have been fine. Any reference to how many nights he spent there, I do think it probably totals up to 5 in the movie. But any reference to that, like, okay, actually, what if he could have had when he was talking with Abby at the table? It was about the fact that, well, I couldn't even make this job last. I only got through 5 nights of it. Something like that, because he couldn't keep. Because the point of it was he was only doing it because he couldn't hold down a job for very long.
This resident is getting
And the hills are getting silenced as the space grows more dead.
The sequel should be directed by Uwe Boll.
Oh God, no! Don't you dare!
I want to see a Lucifer Valentine sequel.
Yeah, exactly.
If Uwe Boll directs the sequel, then I'm shoving you into the house of the dead.
Rob Zombie's Five Nights at Freddy's.
Too many efforts.
Mother.
Oh, see? It's a hit.
Okay, we need to stop.
That could
Okay.
happen.
Anything else you wanted to add, Josh? Anything that you want to add? Okay, my final marks is 1, my score. I'll figure this out in a minute because I probably, right now, I'd give it at least a 7.5. At least 7.5. And I'm trying to be more generous with my views overall, with my opinions overall, instead of just saying everything is at least an 8. But at least a 7.5. The reduction value is easily the number 1 reason to see this movie. Support practical effects. They're dying anyway, but support practical effects. Because if you support them, we get movies like this again. And I've so missed movies looking this good, especially effect-wise. So that's the main reason to see it. All of the acting is really good. I don't think of anyone who gives a bad performance, even if they're only on for a few minutes. Big shock Matt Pat was in this movie after all. And people underestimate that he actually has a long background in theater.
That was
yeah, he has a long background in theater.
That was the funniest cameo I've ever seen in a movie.
Yeah, like you could tell he really had fun with it. He
Was
hasn't
that the taxi driver?
No, he was
Girls
the
Quarters
he,
Kitchen.
he was the waitress, the one that's in
Oh,
theory.
that was
That's-
funny.
Yeah, that was him because
was
his name
funny.
tag says Ness.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that was him. And again, like people forget he has a huge background in theater. He's a very good actor. He has a wide range. It was really nice to see him. Corey Kenshin, of course, had a really fun time. Of course, there are a lot of cameos on the Employee of the Month. We have Daco, 8-Bit Ryan, a lot of people there. And like people said, Markiplier just couldn't be in this one because of Iron Lung. But hopefully he'll be in the sequel. But my overall would be a 7.5.
Does
and
Iron Lung have a theatrical release? I forget.
I don't think so.
It'd be cool if it did.
That would be cool. I mean,
Even if it's limited.
if Blood and Honey can get a theatrical release,
Oh,
why
yeah,
not Iron Lung? But no, and the one last thing I wanted to ask everyone is my favorite animatronic. Mine definitely would be Foxy. I'm a huge Foxy.
I've never guessed.
I'm a huge Foxy fan. I do really like him. He's not my favorite in the franchise, but I did really like him. And Kellen Goff did a great job with the noises. He moved away. They all moved great, but I thought he looked really good, and I was really excited to see him. I thought they were all fantastic, but Foxy was probably my favorite. Nico, your score, at least right now, and your favorite animatronic?
My score, I'd say 3 out of 10. And favorite animatronic of the game or the movie?
The movie.
In the movie, I think my favorite was, I don't know, Chica looked good. And Bonnie looked really creepy in the dark.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, and
like that scene where he's in the closet and like the
oh,
lights
definitely. I
flicker and
loved
he's right
that
there.
shot. That was a great
Yeah,
shot.
like Bonnie looked great
Yeah.
there.
It helps that Bonnie is Cawthon's least favorite because that was the first jump scare he ever got when he was making the first game. And at that time, he explained this in an interview, at that time he didn't have animations yet, they were just still images. So then suddenly a still image of Bonnie flashed on his screen. And like that actually gave him a nightmare years later about Bonnie. So yeah.
Interesting.
No. So yeah, it's his least favorite for a good reason. But a lot of history there. Ounce, your overall score and favorite animatronic?
I'm gonna say 6.885. And I'd say my favorite animatronic is Lean Trap here. Yeah.
Your favorite animatronic in the movie, kid.
Okay. All right. Obviously Freddy because Freddy Vesper.
All right.
That was funny when you did that.
Yeah. No, he did it when the movie started. And
Everyone
everyone
laughed. It
laughed.
was funny.
Everyone weird
Like the
laughed.
lights
People
went
joined in as
dim
well.
and then
Yep.
immediately
Universal
after the lights
logo.
dimmed.
I'm also really glad because this was a movie with a lot of kids, and I have had to attend plenty of movie theaters with a lot of kids. I'm really glad this might have been just the audience we got that the kids weren't super obnoxious because it is so easy in a movie theater
At
to
least,
get kids who just start getting really bored
think-
and won't stop talking.
I think given the time it was a little older because if we went to like a 6 o'clock screening.
Well, yeah, if we went to an early screening, or we went a few weeks ago.
we would have skibbity toilet fetuses or whatever.
Yeah, and like if we went a few
Poppy
weeks ago
playtime.
too, because this was a lot later in the release dates. But no, like just the audience we had some really polite kids. We had some really polite kids at least.
Show
And
that- show that
I
on
could hear
screen.
that they liked it. They reacted to some of the moments. Okay, let's talk about Josh. Your score and favorite animatronic?
My score would probably be solid 8 out of 10. It would have been a 2,000 out of 10 if Markiplier was in it and the 3-hour-long sex scene with Markiplier and the animatronics was
Okay,
natural.
cut it there.
That was the best part.
Yeah, it was the best part. Yeah.
Quit it there. This is still
This is
relative.
airing on
This is still
PBS
relatively family friendly.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. Just not more. And your
No
favorite
more cuss
animatronic?
words, kiss.
Your favorite animatronic in the movie?
I'd probably say Bonnie, but my favorite was a personal animatronic from FNAF is Withered Bonnie from FNAF 2.
Oh yeah, the one with the face. One missing his face.
Here's an actual picture of Withered
Oh,
Bonnie.
come
from
on.
FNAF 2, yeah.
Okay, we gotta stop before the video gets monetized. My last question: if they do a sequel and it mostly just involves FNAF 2, are you looking forward to seeing the puppet or not? Because for many people, the puppet is the scariest.
That would be pretty cool, I'd say. Yeah,
Because for many people, the puppet is the scariest one, and especially since these characters are actual practical animatronics. Imagine what the puppet's gonna look like as a puppet, as an actual Jim Henson puppet floating down the hall.
that'd be freaking terrifying. Like, I know what creepy Ensign.
Do you remember who the puppet is?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so are you, if they just do another sequel and it involves more FNAF 2, are you looking forward to seeing that character?
Yes and no, because I think you're right. The puppet is definitely one of the scariest characters in the game.
And has like a major role in the story too.
It's less scary like coming at you. It's more scary like when you're looking at the camera as he's slowly coming out.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like, nope, not fan of that. Wind.
Yeah.
But seeing how they did a great job with the effects. I know the puppet would look great, and I would love to see that. But at the same time, the way they shot it, it wouldn't be scary.
It'd be too bright.
It would be too bright. It would like
They were
ruin
focused
all
too
the
much on
story
being
of
to
it.
see all of it. And again, like it helps the practical. If these guys were CG, imagine in all the lighting how bad it would have been.
I'd throw up.
How distracting they would, because you would constantly been able to tell because CGI looks worse in the dark. Like the black suit in Spider-Man 3, but with constant lighting on it, you get something like H2O,
I have
Halloween H2O, where you constantly see how awkward it
I
looks.
have views on like how like why effects look worse than they are nowadays, but like I'm not gonna get into it. But like honestly,
No, trust me, I have plenty of views as
I'm
well.
100% glad that I think it's a little weird. It could have done with like a little touch up CGI, like ILM style, because like part of my view is that like the only good one that ever was ILM. So.
No, because I still consider the movie with the greatest practical effects ever made is John Carpenter's The Thing, at least in my opinion.
That's solid.
Yeah, that's not solid. That's some of the best damn visual effects I've ever seen in my
they're
life.
fantastic.
Yeah,
It's not solid.
not just solid.
There's
But no,
there's so much you
just
can
like
cover.
I know, but just like I could go on like a 30-minute rant about effects nowadays.
Me
But
too.
unless you are Chucky, horror movies don't do practical effects anymore. Or at the very least, they very rarely do. And I'm just so glad to see it in this movie.
A lot of indie ones do, but it's because
Yes,
they're made by
indie.
nerds.
Oh yeah, indie do. And like, just it also helped that this movie clearly had more of a budget than Willy's Wonderland because Willy's Wonderland had practical as well, but you can tell they're more costumes.
Adam Sandler would have ruined this movie.
Adam Sandler would have saved this movie.
I don't know if he would have saved it, but it would have been interesting to see him. But
Could
no.
you imagine like one of his characters where you can't understand what he's talking about, like Waterboy or like Hubie Halloween, where he's like,
No, like 8 Crazy Nights, but with animatronics.
yes.
Oh no, no!
I like it.
Stop it!
It's
Stop
all
it!
animated.
Stop it!
Makes the
Stop
puppets
it!
look better.
Stop it! Stop it! Okay, Josh, your view on if they just go with FNAF 2 essentially for the next movie, are you into the idea of seeing the puppet and some of the
Yeah,
other
that'd be
animatronics?
amazing. Yeah.
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 Oh, and of course, I know this is a family-friendly channel. At least I try to be family-friendly. But hey, if they just make FNAF 2, wait for all the people to see live-action Toy Chica.
People gonna go nuts for that. People gonna go nuts.
People went nuts for the original.
People finna go unwise.
Okay. Let's cut it off before I get my channel demonetized for something I accidentally say. Bottom line is, I enjoyed this so much more getting to see it with all of you, and that really made a difference. I had a lot of fun doing it with you guys.
Absolutely.
Plenty of opinions. I will probably make a separate video just talking about why it works for me.
Is
But
what makes everything better.
yeah, a group experience with a movie like this, good or bad, really makes it all a lot more fun.
I agree.
I can't wait till the
Sometimes
Room
bad
Room
movies are the
remake
best
comes
ones to
out.
watch
We gotta
with
watch
friends.
that.
Okay,
Bob Odenkirk's The Room.
I might be with these people again in the future. We might end up seeing Thanksgiving.
That'd be sick, yeah.
I'm on the fence, but we might see it then. And if we do, I'll see you guys then. Outside of that, I can't really think of anything else that's coming out this year that I'll see you guys for, because anything I was interested in got delayed until next year, like Ghostbusters, or it's still in the works, like Deadpool 3 or Sonic 3. So you probably won't see another gut reaction for a long while unless I start doing it for movies that I watch at home on my DVD player, but that's unlikely. With all that being said, I'm really glad I got to do it with these guys. I'm so glad I finally got to see this movie. I thought it was pretty good. Again, at least a 7.5 out of 10, maybe an 8, but I definitely wouldn't go into 9, 10 territory quite yet. But easily my favorite part of it, the visual design, the production design, the animatronics, that's a solid 10. Super impressed with it. On the scale of my favorite movies this year, because the top three are still Nimona, Across the Spider-Verse, and then Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. This is at least in the top 10, but I've seen a lot of movies this year, and I saw the likes of Blue Beetle and Flash this year, so there's plenty of movies to go over at the end, but it's still in my top 10. And if said, you guys sit down and rewatch one, will it be The Flash or this movie? It'd probably be this movie. Not because I hated The Flash, but just because I'd like to rewatch this movie instead. With all that being said, this video is going to be really damn long, but I'm so glad we all got to do it. Thanks again, guys. You can support Nico at Nick October or follow his Letterboxd. Support Sam at Big Ounce, and of course, Meme helps him with a lot of stuff. And you can support his Insta if you really want to, but he helps him with a lot of great stuff. Thank you all so much for watching. I'm so glad I got to do this. See you guys soon when they finally release the Minecraft movie. We'll see you then.
Christopher Nolan.